But I want to ask you, what round would Zach draft a quarterback in?
With Michael Penix. That seemed ridiculous. That seemed absolutely ridiculous.
You need a level of security. You need a level of, if he is, you don't want to have to scramble. You don't want to be like these teams at the top of the draft that have nothing. So
another day, another mock draft, because that's literally what we do this time of the year, Foots. Senior Bowl, mock draft, combine, mock draft, free agency, mock draft. I mean, what else are we supposed to be doing? So that's what we're going to do today. It's a mock draft after the Cowboys signed a ton of guys. People have their own thoughts about that, what that means for the draft, what the Cowboys' plans are moving forward. So I have to ask you, if anything, what have you learned from Cowboys free agency, what their plan is going into the draft, what we really considered when we were putting together this mock draft?
I think, first of all, the process has been extremely interesting. You have the combine, you have the Senior Bowl, which we went to, Zach, so we're doing the homework. Then you have free agency. Then you have Micah and D-Law taking shots. It's been love. Like, talk about content.
Yeah,
we've gotten everything we needed, Zach, and then we've got the plan. So there's people out there that are saying, man, Foots, Zach, we need you guys to work together. We need you guys to hit it. It's like, guys, we're trying to make sense of this as well, because there's so many people who say the Cowboys don't do anything. Then they say, oh, these aren't the type of names that we want. Oh, then it's the first round picks, which again, 8 of the 10 guys they signed were former first round picks. That's crazy. But I kind of get it. And I kind of like it because it's a flyer. If you hit on 2 of these guys, you win, especially on the cheap. Think about what you were able to do with a guy like Malik Hooker a few years ago. You know, it was kind of the end of the road in Indianapolis. He's coming and he's at least been an NFL plus starter for you. So I think the plan is exactly that. Take a flyer on some of these guys who at one point the NFL thought they were good. Like NFL evaluators thought at one point Kyer Elam was good. They thought Javonte Williams was good. He was a 2nd round pick. So I kind of like the idea. And the most important thing is you're covered when you draft. I think of a few positions. I talk about the defensive end room right now. I don't think that the Cowboys have to look in the draft for defensive end resources. Now they could if the right guy falls in any particular situation, but they don't have to, and I like them covering themselves.
They've always been a team that likes to take flyers. They like to bet on the athletic upside, think that, you know, with this coaching, and we saw it with the Philadelphia Eagles. It doesn't always happen in free agency, but Zach Bond, nobody thought a thing about him going to Philadelphia. They moved him to off-ball linebacker. He has an all-pro year, a Pro Bowl year, is a big reason their defense was as good as it was. So I understand their thought process, and that's really what we're here for. I try not to get too emotional over it, just kind of explain to the people why they're doing what they're doing. So you mentioned it. They covered themselves in a number of positions, and one position they didn't, and this is getting into our 5-round mock draft, was wide receiver. They did sign Paris Campbell to a 1-year deal. It's practically for no money, I assume. Maybe a camp body. I don't see Paris Campbell making a huge splash in Dallas. Hopefully he proves me wrong. And that's why in round 1, I went with Emeka Egbuka.
Yes.
Dallas, like I said, didn't do anything with the wide receiver position. I think all of this is setting up to take a wide receiver at 12. You mentioned it with the defensive end. We've heard the name Mykel Williams thrown around. I don't think he's worth the 12th overall pick, hopefully, but Dallas covered themselves at defensive end where you feel like you don't have to go that way. They haven't done that at receiver. CD needs some help at wide receiver too. And the reason I went with Egbuka over a guy like Ted McMillan or Matthew Golden is I think the floor needs to be high. Like, you don't need Egbuka to come in and be your wide receiver 1. You need him to be a high end 2 or your 1B. And I think he gives you the best chance to hit in round 1. He's going to come in. He's going to be solid. He's going to give CD some help, give Dak a security blanket when CD's not open, give the defense something else to worry about that's not Lamb. So that's why I went with Emeka Egbuka in round 1.
I think that is probably one of the safest and smartest picks that we've seen. And we've made this pick before, but once you've learned everything about who this team wants to be, I think one thing people are forgetting, Zach, is that the Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb. So you do have a weapon and a really good one. What you need now is a guy to come in and do his job. You need a guy to come in and block. Emeka checks that box. You need a guy to come in and check and catch. Emeka checks that box. You need a guy to come in and run routes and get separation. Emeka checks that box. I think we look at the word we look at the word floor, and it's like, well, he won't be great. And if he's a steady Eddie, consistently 800 to 1,000 yards opposite of CeeDee Lamb, you will take that any day of the week. Like if he comes in and can get as a rookie 700 yards, then next year 1,000 yards, then maybe 900. While CeeDee Lamb's in his prime, you live. Another thing that people haven't talked about with Ibuka is he has practiced being a Robin, and a darn good one. He was talking about at the combine how he had to set up Jeremiah Smith, and he had to basically, run routes to make sure that he was open and press up field to make sure that he got separation. To me, that's awesome because you get a guy who is unselfish right away. The route running is extremely consistent outside of the injury concern, and there wasn't really much this year. He bounced back this year and played really, really good football, had 1,000 yards, had 10 touchdowns. I think the rare combination of speed, run after the catch, long speed, sign me up. Sign me up, Zach.
I think people get worried about the floor, like you said, and they think, Ibuka's not worth the 12th overall pick. And the thing about this draft is there's not a ton of blue chip. This guy's a locked in top 5, top 10 pick. Ibuka, I think, just comes in, gives you that steady play, helps the wide receiver room immediately, running the ball, catching the ball, doing all of those things. So take the wide receiver in round 1. Really quick, guys, before we continue, I have to tell you about today's sponsor, BetUS. I know that the NFL season is over, but that doesn't mean the action stops. Whether it's the NBA, college hoops, UFC, or even NFL futures for the 2025 season, BetUS has you covered. They have been America's favorite sportsbook for over 30 years, and right now they're giving you a massive bonus when you sign up. 150% deposit match on your first and 125% match on your next 2. That will allow you to bet on playoff basketball, fight nights that are coming up, March Madness, or even early Super Bowl odds for next season. I mean, there's always something to cash in on. You think the Cowboys are going to win the NFC East next year, which is totally a possibility? You can lock that in now. So head over to BetUS, claim your 150% and your 125% deposit bonus, and get started today. I wanted to say thank you to BetUS for not only helping me, but allowing people to not just sit and wait for next season, but to stay in the game. BetUS, where the game begins. And on to round 2, where we have them selecting Andrew Makuba, the safety from Texas.
Let's roll, Zach. Andrew Makuba. So I actually made this pick. Zach got the odds. I got the evens. So with Makuba, I wanted to think outside the box, Zach. And I want to say, okay, if the Cowboys did do what I think they may do, offense, defense, or running back, receiver, and then the rest defense, some type of a combination like that. Because I think that you still do have to attack the defensive side of the ball. I love Andrew Makuba. Now, I flirted with putting Malachi Starks here, but realistically, would he make the 44? Maybe. He's falling a little bit in mocks and around NFL circles, but to 44, I don't know. But I do know that Andrew Makuba is right there as far as a weapon, and notice I said the word weapon. So I went back and did some research and talking to my Bears people, and you talk about Matt Eberflus and his usage, and does he want to have 3 linebackers on the field? Does he want to play with a nickel? Does he want to play with certain safeties? What type of safeties? Kyler Gordon, the Bears nickel back, run stop, all over the field, extraordinaire, played 700 plus snaps in that Bears defense. In other words, the Bears people I'm talking to, and they're like, why Jack Sanborn couldn't get on the field as much is because Kyler Gordon was just that good. He was a monster versus the run. He could cover. Guess what? Now you get Kyler Gordon 2.0 and Andrew Makuba because he is super instinctual. He's really physical. I got some numbers for you. Okay. 90 overall grade, 700 plus snaps. This is PFF. 71 snaps in the slot. Okay. 4 at corner. 129 snaps in the box, Zach. So he's not scared to get physical. Like, he will do that. But then he had 500 snaps on the roof. In other words, he's done it all. Go watch the Georgia tape. Go watch the Michigan tape. He's all over the field. He's like in that Georgia game, he was hitting dudes so hard. One of the knocks on him is sometimes he can play a little out of control. Yeah. But he's a rangy physical safety. And normally you don't say that. And the only reason why he's hanging around is because the positional value. The value when it comes to safety, let's just be honest, it doesn't stand up there with left tackle. It doesn't stand up there with quarterback, receiver, even, running back is now in vogue. It's made a comeback. But I think if used right, what if he is this team's Brian Branch? What if he is this team's tight end eraser? And, oh, by the way, he can come up and fit the run. And he just brings that speed element to this defense. So long-winded answer to say, I like Andrew Makuba. I like thinking outside the box a little bit, guys. We do enough of these mock drafts, and we love you. And yes, we want to go running back right away. I get it. But you know what, Zach? We're going Andrew Makuba here.
I would just love to see Dallas actually address the safety position with a pick, because it's been so long since we've seen them really invest draft capital into the safety position. Like a guy that has real range, real explosiveness. Kuba understands angles. We saw him bait a bunch of quarterbacks in the college football playoffs. And no offense to Malik Hooker or Donovan Wilson, but how many times have we seen those two guys just completely misread a shot down the sideline or terribly undercut a post route? I mean, I'm even thinking back. It goes so far back with safety play with the Cowboys to J.J. Wilcox in 2014, where you would just see him taking an awful angle to the ball. Donovan Wilson's on the last year of his contract. Malik Hooker's on the last year of his contract. I know they brought back Marquise Bell, Wanye Thomas. There might be something there, but those are undrafted free agent guys. And that kind of tells you what Dallas thinks. Malik Hooker, people thought he was washed and out of the league. Donovan Wilson was a 6th round pick. So having a guy in the 2nd round with a top 50 pick that you think can come in and be a difference maker, even if it's at safety where we don't really value the position like maybe we should, I would be excited about that. So we got this far in the mock draft, right? And like a lot of the people out there, I started worrying. We don't have our running back. All right. We're about to go into the season with Miles Sanders getting 150 touches and Javonte Williams getting another 150 touches. So that's why in round 3, I went with DJ Giddens.
Yes.
Obviously, the first thing with Giddens, you see the team he plays for, and you see the connection to Connor Riley from Kansas State, now the Cowboys offensive line coach. And I can't really imagine that Riley's not going to just be talking to everyone in that building about Giddens, how good he was. I mean, 1,300 yards for that offense in 2024, 6.5 yards per carry, 4.17 yards after contact per attempt. I mean, he's built really well, 6'1", 212. He moves extremely well for that size. I really liked his ability once he got into the 2nd level to make a guy miss, and he's out the gate. He's turning 5 to 10 yard runs, making a guy miss, and next thing you know, it's a 30 or 40 yard run. Yes. Now, when I was watching him, his play style might not be this level of patience and explosiveness, but it kind of reminded me of Le'Veon Bell a little bit. Mm-hmm. The way that he's patient at the line, he's got quick, he can jump over a gap, make guys miss. Just gives me a little bit of that 2014 Le'Veon Bell vibes before he got washed up. So I think you have a chance in round 3 to get a guy that's really good with outside gap scheme stuff. Yes. The way he puts his foot in the ground, makes guys miss, turns those short runs into 30, 40 yard runs. I think you'd have a week 1 starter, maybe mix in Javonte Williams, mix in another guy until he gets comfortable. And then later in the season, you have your RB1 getting a ton of carries.
I think you hit it on the head. Something that I have written down is rare stop ability for his size. And I did content on DJ Giddens. I'm very familiar. I was watching him throughout the season. I remember one game I'm watching him downstairs in the basement with my dad. I'm like, yo, this guy is really good. Bigger body, but he makes guys miss. And one nugget, 69 forced missed tackles this year. 69. Zach. Like, that's pretty good. I think that was seventh amongst Power 5 backs. And like you said, 6'2", went to the combine, showed out, moved well, ran well. I think he has great route running ability. Wheel routes, Texas routes, he's a bigger body. He catches the ball almost like a receiver. And I like the Cowboys saying, hey, love you, Deuce Vaughn, not good enough. Hey, Rico Dowdle, you want to go be great behind Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks? Go ahead, sayonara to Carolina. We're going to remake this room. And I do like Javonte Williams. Like, to me, the battle is for running back 2, because whoever you draft, and you're going to draft a running back, will be your running back 1. I like this approach, and this is what I meant by the Cowboys free agency approach isn't as bad as people think. You can go play a game right now with Myles Garrett. You would love to play a game with Myles Garrett. You can go play a game right now with Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams, but your future would be a guy like Giddens. Sign me up, especially with the connection when it comes to Connor Riley. I was watching some more of his pin pull. He had a pin pull clinic today. He's just a really sharp dude. So I would love this pick. I really would.
For all those running back people out there that wanted us to take one with a top 50 pick, you got your top 100 running back. And if you haven't watched Giddens yet, you should definitely go watch him. I think a lot of people would be excited about that
fun
selection.
Watch. Very
so
fun
we
watch.
Head on to round 5. Foots, this is your pick. If you want to tell the people who you went with in round 5.
Okay. And let's preface this, Zach. There has been Ian Rappaport came out today. Very interesting. Me and Zach were backstage, pre-show, pre-prepping, whatever you want to call it. And we're like, wait a minute, Zach, did Ian Rappaport just say that the Cowboys could draft a quarterback as early as the 2nd round? And we got to thinking they could. Now, Zach hinted at that in his earlier piece of content. I don't know if Ian is hearing stuff. I don't know if he's just thinking. But the fact is, they don't believe in Trey Lance. He's not even under contract, so that's out. Cooper Rush is out. They could go quarterback as high as 2nd round. Now, I went Dylan Gabriel, and I'll tell you why. Me and Zach sat in the stands. Jackson Dart was there. Tyler Shuck was there. Jalen Milroe was there. And all-star games are very uncomfortable for quarterbacks. I understand. You don't know. You're learning a new scheme. You don't know these guys. Time is all over the place. I get it. Just moving the offense and looking like a pro, Dylan Gabriel looked the best to me. Now, gotta preface this with Dylan Gabriel is not taller than 5'10". It is what it is. He's a very small quarterback. I think he has great accuracy. I think he understands windows. I think he has good footwork and enough to escape pockets. Here's what it is for me. Whoever the Cowboys draft, because they are going to draft a quarterback, no position is safe on this roster, and nor should it be. If Dak gets hurt, you need to have a guy who could create out of structure. Look at me. Zach, do one of your cool cuts. Create out of structure. There was so many times that I watched Cooper Rush, and although he was really good and you felt like, hey, you may win a few games, you never felt like you were really in a race or he could keep things going. Where at least with a Brock Purdy who took over when Jimmy Garoppolo got injured, Brock Purdy was able to run around, make guys miss, play with hot feet. He didn't have the best arm, and like the league has kind of figured him out in certain ways. But guess what? He had feet to where he could play out of structure. He could, if somebody knifed through, he could avoid a tackle. I don't want any statues as backups. I do not want a statue. I want a guy who could climb, escape through the C gap, do those types of things. And I think that Dylan Gabriel has that in his bag. Go watch the Michigan game. I really like the Michigan game. He had a play in the Michigan game where he steps up in the pocket, he takes a hit, but he hits the guy on a seam shot on time, gets from 1 to 2 to the seam. I really like him. That's my endorsement for Gabriel, Zach. But maybe they go higher. Who knows?
Dallas let Cooper Rush walk.
Yes.
Trey Lance isn't here anymore. What have they haven't done anything. They, like, at least with wide receiver, they signed Paris Campbell. As of right now, Dallas doesn't have a backup quarterback outside of Will Grier. If you want to consider him their quarterback 2 right now, I just cannot see a world where they go into the season with Will Grier as their quarterback 2 without having someone else you hope can take his job if Dak were to go down. And we've talked about it so many times with Dak. He is really he's on that fringe of injury prone. He's very close, like another season-ending injury or missing 5 games here, 8 games there. Like, he is going to be in that injury prone category. So getting Dillon Gabriel in round 5, the Senior Bowl, the ball was coming out on time. He has good ball placement, good accuracy. Think about this. Tez Johnson, some people have him in the second round. Some people think he's on an NFL wide receiver, but he had him and Evan Stewart had a great year. Yes. 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. It was the second year in a row that he did that.
Wow.
I really like Dillon Gabriel. I have questions about Dallas and their benchmarks for quarterbacks, if they will like Dillon Gabriel as much as we do. People don't like to hear about the floor, but I do think Dillon Gabriel gives you some sort of floor because of his ability to play on time, the arm talent. Apparently he threw 70-something miles an hour. We don't know how true that is. I think it'd be a phenomenal pick. And if Dallas is going to go with a quarterback, they wait till round 5 and you get Dillon Gabriel, I would be extremely excited about that. So Dallas, one more round 5 pick. And I was kind of considering when I was looking at it, I didn't really see any names that I loved. Yeah. So just as somebody as going to the Senior Bowl, I always fall back on those names that I really, really liked.
Yeah.
And we know that Will McClay was there. We know that Stephen Jones was there. I mean, they're not nearly as smart as me. So, but that's why I went with Brashard Smith, the running back from SMU.
Love this pick.
And ever since we started this draft process in like week 8, when Dak went down, we knew it was over. We always said, let's double dip at running back. And Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams, they don't change that for me. I think you could have DJ Giddens, Brashard Smith, and Javonte Williams. I think all 3 of those guys complement each other's strengths and weaknesses extremely well. Brashard Smith is a wide receiver turned running back. He plays like that. There's some things when he's running the ball where you can tell he's not as polished, some of the vision stuff, but his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, catch it outside the framework of his body, he was destroying the linebackers and one-on-ones down in Mobile. I just think you pair him with a guy like Giddens. He's a receiving threat. You keep Javonte Williams. If you want your RB3, you have a really nice pairing right there of a RB1, a pass catcher, and then a power back type on the roster. And I think you're ready to go play ball. And then you don't worry about the running back position for the next 4 years. So Brashard Smith in round 5.
Bro, sign me up. If an injury happens to one of these guys, you feel great about it. You could take Brashard Smith in the 3rd round, Zach, and I would have been fine. Like, it's all about the plan, but I like how you went Giddens because he's more complete just because of his body, his frame, and he's fast as crap. So, but then you add, like, I would see Brashard Smith as your true change of pace, 3rd down that could turn into really something more, end up being a high-level Tony Pollard type starter as his career went on. So I love that pick. Zach, I know we're not pressed for time, and this has been one of our better mocks, but I want to ask you, putting you on the floor before we close out, what round would Zach draft a quarterback in?
I don't think I want to take a quarterback with a top 100 pick.
Okay.
I don't think I'd love any of the quarterbacks that I think you could possibly get. Really wouldn't want to spend one at 12, and I don't have any that I would like to spend a top 100 pick on.
Yes.
Because Dallas just paid Dak.
Yes.
Are we in win now mode or are we not?
Yes.
Is my question. But we talked about this pre-show with Michael Penix. That seemed ridiculous. That seemed absolutely ridiculous. And then what happened? Kirk Cousins just falls off a cliff. You have your 8th overall pick in Michael Penix. He comes in. It looks like he's going to take a huge step forward. And we're like, oh, like that made total sense. Like, good
job, Atlanta.
It's just, I don't think you're going to get a Michael Penix at 12.
Yeah.
And I worry that there's just holes that need to be filled. And if you take a Quinn Ewers or you take a Will Howard or whoever, I think there's going to be a guy in round 5 that you don't feel great about. You don't want him to start day 1, but you feel good about progressing, getting better year over year. And then maybe he's a solid backup in a year or 2. It's just interesting how much Dallas neglected that position. Like, you don't have a backup quarterback. So the plan must be to take a quarterback that you can plug in as your quarterback too. And who is that? I don't know. How would you take a quarterback in this class?
I think that if you love Dart, I got to say, if you love Milroe and I didn't have to see him for a year, I don't know if I would hate it because, again, the athleticism is too good to pass up. Now, Milroe has had some complete stinkers, He also had a game versus Georgia where he looked like the best quarterback in the draft. So I think that getting that level of consistency would be tough. But again, you hit on it. I don't think Dak is Kirk. I don't think he's washed. But you need a level of security. You need a level of, if he is, you don't want to have to scramble. You don't want to be like these teams at the top of the draft that have nothing. So it's going to be interesting, Zach. I just wanted your thoughts on that.
And another thing, too, is Dallas has been so comfortable with Cooper Rush over the past, 3 or 4 years? Like, they'll just re-sign him. It's not like the Ravens gave him a ton of money. Like, they must have something in their back pocket that they're like, okay, we feel comfortable enough to move on from Rush, and we're going to go find us a backup quarterback. And with Jalen Milroe, you think about Dak Prescott coming out of college, big, strong, athletic. Some of the mechanics stuff is wonky at times. Some of the accuracy is off. But he's a guy that he can run. He's really strong once he gets out there. Like, you guys remember Dak Prescott in 2016, rookie Dak Prescott, big, bullying guys. Mm-hmm. He's not that player anymore, but Jalen Milroe, some of the stuff he doesn't do well could be substituted by what he can do with his legs. He's not going to be a statue in the pocket if he did have to play. And you talk about waiting a year and you hope you don't have to see him. It's just, I don't know if I trust Dak's body enough.
Yeah. That's it.
Know how much I trust Dak to stay healthy at this point. And that's kind of what worries me. If you throw a 5th round pick out there in week 7, it might get ugly. It might get, and maybe that's the point. Yeah. Maybe that's the point. The 5th round pick goes out there, you lose every single game. And next thing you know, you're at the top of the draft. And maybe then you want to take a quarterback at 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. So I don't know. That's a tricky one.
In the first 3 rounds, I don't think it's crazy. I mean, people don't want to hear that, but I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I'll do it. I'll be that guy. So this was fun, Zach. This was one of those ones, man. I know we wanted to keep it in a tighter time frame, but I think the fans are gonna really like this one for sure.
Yeah, this one's a ton of fun, and we're gonna start hitting on some 7-round mock drafts in April when we start getting closer to the draft. So thank you guys so much for watching. Foots, I enjoyed it. We're definitely gonna have some more mocks coming out real soon.
And you guys don't forget, I'm pretty sure Zach will put the link in the description box. The draft guide. The draft guide is here. I'm actually cleaning up my top 100. That'll be it's an ongoing process, so that'll be in there. And also, quick housekeeping note: me and Zach will be on with Skywalker still for the first 2 days of the draft. So we're going live. You're getting all our reactions. I know we'll have the first 2 days of the draft players hit, and we'll have those guys covered. So you guys make sure you get with us and stay with us because that's going to be fun.
Enjoyed it, Foots.
Yes, sir. Much love, bro.